Wednesday, May 17th,
It's the same person, by the way.
1995.
As in, same
An Army veteran,
YouTuber.
down on his luck and at odds with the world, entered a San Diego National Guard armory, stealing a 100,000-pound patent tank, taking the city of San Diego hostage during a televised rampage.
Now, this one might be a little different story.
And after desperately running out of options, authorities requested the assistance from the United States Marine Corps, requesting a Cobra attack helicopter to respond and take out the tank. But not before a Marine turned police officer seized the moment, bringing a 9mm to a tank fight. For 23 hellish minutes, San Diego was on lockdown. In 1995, San Diego was arguably in its prime. The economy was booming, the Padres were decent, and while the city was considered family-friendly, crime in San Diego peaked in the mid-90s. And with a population of 2.6 million, the San Diego Police Department were severely overwhelmed. From gang violence to homicides to petty shit like, oh my god, it's too sunny, not sunny enough. But with that volume of crime came an increased level of training and experience. The San Diego Police Department
The 90s.
was a highly capable force, ready for anything except a tank. However, San Diego was and still is a military town, and a lot of the members of the San Diego Police Department were military veterans who decided to settle down in the area after serving, many of whom understood armored warfare. But few understood it like Sean Nelson, a Utah man who would later relocate with his family to San Diego. And after high school, Nelson enlisted in the U.S. Army.
I have a question. It may say when it gets to that point, but if you have a tank in the military area, do they if they had ammunition in them, do they take it out, or do they just kind of leave it? Do they leave it all in there, or do they take it out just to be on the safe side and make sure no one takes the tank and has the ability to shoot said tank? Shoot out of said tank, I suppose. Like, how does that? They do take it out? Okay. I didn't know how all that worked. It's all kind of new to me. I don't know anything about tanks. It's explained later. Okay, perfect then.
Where he attended armor school at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where he learned and mastered his craft as an armor crewman in 1978. And after completing his training, Nelson was deployed to West Germany with his tank battalion. He would get out of the Army only 2 years later. But while serving, Nelson received multiple disciplinary actions, but nonetheless was honorably discharged in 1980. He returned to San Diego in pursuit of the American dream. He started his own plumbing business, married a woman with an equally successful career, and together they had it made. Nelson was quickly building a respectable reputation as a friendly plumber, and was famously known within his community as the plumber with the work van bearing personalized plates, can fix. He took thousands of jobs, always quoted fair prices, and business was good. But the seemingly happy family man would soon descend through a chapter of misfortune in 1988, beginning with the passing of his mother. Overwhelmed with grief, Nelson became extremely erratic. So erratic that his wife hopelessly filed for divorce in 1990, causing Nelson to become even more erratic.
That's crazy. I know losing a loved one, especially like a mother or a parent, but like to just change your whole behavior like that. I just wonder like what the wife and him discussed. If the wife said you need to go and like take mental help or something, because mental health is very important. If you didn't know, it's very, very important.
And to make matters worse, shortly after his divorce, a motorcycle accident would leave Nelson with serious spinal injuries and a lifetime of chronic pain. And this erratic behavior was only worsened while being...
Chronic pain will make you worse. I have migraines, and I've had a migraine for like 3 days straight, whether it was severe pain or other side effects that go along with it, or they just go back and forth between the symptoms. I'm angry because I can't do anything, and I'm hurting, and nothing is helping me at all, and I'm just mad in the darkness in bed. It just makes me mad, and having chronic pain where it just does not go away ever, that's miserable.
Treated at Sharp Memorial Hospital, Nelson tried to walk out and was physically stopped by hospital security. And after being discharged, Nelson would file a lawsuit for $1.6 million in damages, citing negligence, assault, battery, and false imprisonment at the hands of Sharp Memorial Hospital. A Superior Court judge would later dismiss the case, and the hospital countersued Nelson for $6,000, dealing Nelson yet another blow to his already declining well-being. And to make matters even worse, his father's death would occur only 2 years later in 1992, causing his life to spiral out of control, and he turned heavily to drugs and alcohol. The feelings of hopelessness, desperation, coupled with a vague opinion that pain and misfortune predominate the world, the blue-collar optimist became a pessimist.
I think back then,
By 1995,
people go crazy.
Nelson would become a shell of his former
that sounds about
self
right.
after his tools were stolen out of his work van. The tools were...
Seems like the main parts of your body, if it hurts, it is awful. Like, oh, my hand hurts. Well, technically you don't need a hand. So it feels like it's not as detrimental as having, you know, a headache or a back injury. You can't remove your spine. Can't remove your head, you know. Stuff like that. I don't know. On average 6 to 10 for pain, but I'm so used to it, it's more like a 4. Yeah, I've gotten used to my pain at some points. So at some points it fights through that. But no.
Required to perform his plumbing duties. And with no money and no tools to fulfill his jobs, Nelson was shit out of luck. His utilities were shut off, his mailbox began to overflow with collection letters, and his live-in girlfriend at the time moved out and left him. He was now facing reality as the bank began proceedings to foreclose his home. Addiction began taking over, and Nelson began seriously using hard drugs.
And see, the drugs are just making it worse. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm fine. I just have migraines a lot, or headaches, or side effects of migraines. All the time. All the time. Yeah, this poor guy. I mean, mom died, divorce, motorcycle accident, the court stuff with the hospital, losing your dad, nothing's going your way. It sounds like he may not have any support system at all at this point. That's hard. That's hard.
Odd evening hours, Nelson would dig in his backyard, reportedly digging a hole as deep as 20 feet, and telling his friends that he was mere inches from finding gold and
Okay, so he has friends. He had friends, but they probably just didn't know the depth of his spiral at the time. He may seem fine when he's with them, but I don't know about that. Like, saying he's close to gold and he's digging a hole, that's when you need to start questioning, like, are you sure? Are you okay? Like, kind of thing, where this is not normal behavior. Now, if you have a treasure map and you're looking for that treasure on X marks the spot, that's different. But this is just kind of random in your backyard. Yeah. I'm not sure the friends just didn't know or they just didn't care. Yeah.
Possibly oil in his backyard. He began obsessing over his so-called mine shaft, with delusions that finding these natural resources would be his financial salvation. Nelson took this mine shaft so seriously, he filed a notice informing the county of San Diego of his plans to mine his backyard. When city engineers rejected Nelson's plans, Nelson became manic, and through his suffering and his drug abuse, Nelson developed a nihilistic worldview, a dangerous combination for a man without a family. As during this time, while showing a neighbor his mine shaft, Nelson stated that Oklahoma was good stuff, in reference to the Oklahoma City bombing perpetrated by Timothy McVeigh, which occurred the month prior on April 19th of that year, an attack which left 168 people dead.
A massive car bomb exploded outside of a large federal building in downtown Oklahoma.
The neighbor was unsure if Nelson was condoning the attack or commenting on the drama the event caused over the last several weeks. But it's obvious Nelson took some form of inspiration, whether it be in the shape of mass destruction or self-destruction. He devised his plan only 1 month following the Oklahoma bombing. He picked his location, a National Guard armory in the area of Kearny Mesa, and a time of 5 p.m., the height of rush hour traffic. And on Wednesday, May 17th, in the seemingly utopian city of San Diego, Nelson drove his van to the National Guard armory. Although the gate to the vehicle yard was typically locked after 5 p.m., employees at the armory were working late and left the gate wide open. Nelson drove straight in. Guardsmen stared at the van bearing the license plate, "Can Fix," and only assumed Nelson was supposed to be there, as he looked the part of some sort of repairman, until he climbed down the hatch of a 57-ton.
I was about to wonder like how he managed to get in, but that makes sense. Oh, they called this guy to do some work somewhere, you know, in the building. Yeah. Anytime someone's like, "Hey, I'm here to do some work on something," that you just have to be cautious with that now. It's so scary.
M60 patent tank and fired.
You can buy a vest off of Amazon or anywhere and pretend you're someone. Why is the music like this? Why is it serene? What is this? Wait. Is that the Wawa place? From the fruit and tearless? Or no, is that wiener schnitzel? What is that? This makes it less intense. Now my brain's confused. He's on the road at least. The tank. Are they littered?
With the top
They're on the road.
30 miles per hour, Nelson's 100,000-pound tank plowed through dozens of unattended parked cars, even coming within feet of not one resident's house.
Never mind. I take back what I said.
He ran up over a cyclone fence about a foot from a house.
Oh my gosh. Especially if you're in the house, I would be. Oh, that's terrifying. And being those cars.
It became evident.
Can you imagine if. Wait. What if this is you sitting here and you see this? This guy is still obeying the law right here. They don't even move. Is that a guy or that a line? I'm pretty sure that was a car, right? It's hard to tell. I can't tell. But regardless, I'd be terrified.
Through his technical maneuvering, that whoever
It looked like a car,
was
at least.
was a trained professional. And given the threat posed and the inability to stop the threat, San Diego police notified the Marine Corps. Officials at Camp Pendleton suggested a Cobra attack helicopter, and the bird was prepped for takeoff.
Would insurance cover that? I don't think it's saying the insurance policy to cover your house if ran over by a tank. Yeah, tank through it backwards.
Nelson made his way northbound.
I was wondering, like, this thing is looking like it's going backwards. So I don't know how to.
He entered the 805 freeway, heading southbound toward the 163 split. And while on the 805, he attempted to knock down a pedestrian bridge. And after multiple failed attempts, he eventually gave up. He made his way onto the 163 near the exit of Genesee when he made a sudden abrupt turn toward oncoming southbound traffic, putting the lives of hundreds of innocent civilians in jeopardy. But while crushing through the center median, he disabled the left track and hung the body of the tank atop the rubble. Realizing how close he was to crushing oncoming vehicles, officers surrounded him and began scrambling with ideas.
I don't think the dog needs to go in right now.
San Diego police officer Paul Paxton, a gunnery sergeant at the time with Marine
Are those
Corps
all
Reserve,
cop
leaped
cars?
onto the hull of the tank and opened the hatch. He called down to Nelson and ordered him to surrender. Nelson looked up, ignored Officer Paxton, and continued lurching the tank back and forth in an attempt to free. 3 other officers rushed in to assist Officer Paxton, including this guy right here who looks like Chunk from the Goonies. The officers ordered Nelson to surrender, but Nelson continued to ignore them and continued throttling the tank. Police were left with no other options, as the risk of him freeing the tank and mowing down oncoming traffic was far too dangerous.
Yeah.
Officer Paxton fired his weapon one time, striking Nelson in the shoulder. Nelson collapsed and officers rushed in to secure the scene. Nelson was ironically transported to Sharp Memorial Hospital, where he later succumbed to his wound. And on May 18th, at approximately 2:30 a.m., the tank was removed from the freeway. Miraculously, nobody else was hurt from this incident. The story shocked not only San Diego residents, but the nation alike. And debate soon followed as to whether or not police were justified in using lethal force.
The question is there something else they could have done?
One of the officers who ended up jumping on top of that tank to stop
Maybe reach for about Snickers.
This cop operated a tank during Desert Storm.
I know people look at it as a vehicle or a tank. That was a moving weapon. That was the biggest weapon on the loose in the city of San Diego yesterday.
Why wouldn't they mace him? Why wouldn't they do anything? They shot the guy and left with no answer.
There's one thing that goes.
Unfortunately,
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to say this. The thing is, the spray may not have worked. You just never know. And I hate that it ended up that way. But the thing is, if he got out, even pepper sprayed, and started driving erratically, instead of one person, it could have been 20 others. That's kind of the thing. As much as we want answers, yeah, he shot him in the shoulder. And I'm surprised, like, he could succumb to his injuries, like, unless he had is there an artery in there or something? I'm not sure. But unfortunately, that's just how it has to be sometimes. You just have to make that decision, you know? Yeah, maybe that. Just unfortunately. He probably wasn't trying to do that, but it just ended up happening. Yeah, it had to have been. Hi, Mia, by the way. How you doing? So, yeah.
As I mentioned with this story.
I hate that it happened. I hate that it had to end that way.
His discontent for Sharp Memorial Hospital and his history there is.
But you gotta think, what if your friends and family were on that highway? You know?
it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of, like, the cops
The fact
and
that his
everything
tank
like that.
stalled near Genesee on the 163 may not be a coincidence. From my experience working on an ambulance in San Diego a long time ago, Genesee is the 163 exit to Sharp Memorial. The hospital property is less than a few hundred yards from the exit, and his tank stalled fronting the hospital. It's not impossible to imagine that's where Sean Nelson
Yeah,
was
that's
headed.
true. It was pretty fresh for all those people, too. And a brother. Oh, gosh.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of tough calls you have to make in those types of situations, you know?